Grande.
What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba with James Grande. Welcome to the FantasyAlarm NBA DFS Playbook Preview Show. It is Tuesday, 6 games on the main slate. DraftKings today has decided to graciously allow us to have the 10 p.m. games on the main slate. You and I talked a little bit about this on the Monday live stream here. Maybe DraftKings is trying to make it so at minimum the main slates are 6 games. Days where there are a lot more games, they'll just cut the 10 p.m. games off it. Days where there's less games on the slate, they'll include the 10 p.m. games to give us more of a fuller slate of a main slate. So we're still trying to figure it all out, but at least for today, unlike Monday and unlike Wednesday, we will have the 10 p.m. games here on the slate, which means we have Charlotte, Sacramento with Charlotte on a back-to-back, and we'll have Orlando, Golden State, Chicago, Philly with Joel Embiid expected to return. So we'll have Embiid versus Drummond. The infamous matchup here in that one. San Antonio versus Memphis, Boston, OKC, Brooklyn, New Orleans making up the rest of the slate.
Drummond versus Embiid is a story that one of those players have had a lot of success in and one player has not. And the not is Andre Drummond. But Andre Drummond has been really great. For what it's worth, we'll see if that can continue. But Embiid off the injury report. Have to think this was circled once he saw that Vooch was out. Actually the ankle's hurting a little bit more, but I think it's going to be good.
Return. Yeah.
Be good the day after New Year's. It's a fun slate. Only 2 players over 10K. Very, very intrigued here because we've seen SGA just be matchup proof. Dominated Denver 40 actual, dominated Minnesota 34 actual, like really good defenses. Well, here's the best team in the NBA for SGA. State your MVP case, right? So,
and Drew Holiday off the injury report.
Drew Holiday, so he'll see both Holiday and White, maybe Brown because people like to put size on SGA. Good luck, but this should be a really fun slate. Maybe some bounce back performances. John Morant, you killed me on Saturday, Sunday, but
it wasn't great. Wasn't a great John Morant performance there.
wasn't great, but Kings in a smash spot, getting the Hornets on a back-to-back. But fun slate overall, good matchups, tough matchups. Wemby, Embiid, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, Wemby for how many minutes though? We got to go look at Wednesday's slate. Is San Antonio on a back-to-back or not? Because we know that they are going to be. What was the quote? They have a plan for him. He's played 24 minutes now in 3 straight games. Against Portland, though, he played 24 minutes and gave you a 60 bomb. So always capable of just popping off like that.
Thursday, Wemby, Giannis, John.
We didn't get that last time. He was ruled out
in the
last Wemby Giannis matchup. So we'll see if he's in there or not. Let's get into our positional breakdowns here. Again, point guard, SGA is your top price guy at 10-3. You got John Morant here, 9,700. De'Aaron Fox at 96, and Tyrese Maxey would be returning Joel Embiid at 9K. Is SGA still your top point guard here?
Until he shows us he's not matchup proof, he's matchup proof, right? Like it's kind of one of those things. I know he wasn't great against Brooklyn. They were in control for most of that game. Chet was really, really good. The bench was really, really good. Lou Dort was really, really good in that game. So I'm okay getting SGA. He'll probably be contrarian because people think that the matchup stinks, and it's not good. Right. But it's something you and I talk about all the time. Like if there's nothing Drew Holiday and Derek White can do if SGA is doing what he's done all year, right? Like it's just we've seen it. Like he did it to Minnesota. He did it to Denver in Denver. Like it's just one of those things. So maybe that's keeps him low owned. Maybe that's a reason why you'd want to play him.
I like that they're home here. I'll say that. If they were in Boston, I would have like maybe a little worry that this game could go. I mean, Boston has had no problems blowing anybody out. OKC is a 3-point home underdog, which again, you and I have talked a lot about, the disrespect that the Thunder have gotten in some of these matchups. I don't think this is one of them. I think that, 3 points is an interesting line. It's a 239.5 game total too, by the way. So their Vegas, at least for now, is expecting a competitive, high-scoring game here between these two teams.
Well, Boston hasn't lost at home,
Right.
and all 6 losses have come on the road. So
Yeah.
I like, and for what it's worth, like they're the best team in the NBA, and I'm not saying they're not. They are. It's basically, unless there's catastrophic injury, like collision course with Milwaukee at some point, and then
Yeah.
in the finals. But like OKC's 22-9, right? Like they're
Mhm.
the 2 seed in the West, who is also 13-5 at home. So like
Right.
I get it. I agree Boston should be favorited, but like I don't think you and I would necessarily be surprised if OKC won because Boston's been so good at home. Of course, they almost lose to Detroit as their one home loss, De- Detroit, or is it? It was Detroit, right? The almost home loss, or was that the Toronto game? I
No, Detroit. Detroit took them to OT.
the OT, yeah, that's their like closest home game this year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, Boston against the spread this year isn't all that great. They're 16, 14, and 2. So, and they're 6, 8, and 2 on the road against the spread. So, should be a fun game. Wouldn't be surprised if OKC was able to pull that off. But,
right.
Player for player, talent for talent,
Of
obviously
course.
Boston generally holds the edge in a lot of those spots. This is a 6-game slate, 3 games with double-digit point total. Sacramento's giving 15, Memphis is giving 12.5, and Philly's giving 11. So, also have to kind of take that into account when looking over some of these matchups.
Yeah, and we don't know what's going to happen with Charlotte on a back-to-back. I know they usually play all their guys, but you never know, right?
Yeah,
Like
Rozier, at the time of this recording, obviously, we don't know if Rozier's going to be in or out of the Monday slate, but he was midday downgrade to a questionable. So
yeah,
something to watch out for
right.
there as well. Any worries about Maxey at 9K, given the spread and the return of Embiid?
I mean, he's been really good with Embiid, so not really. Like I would rather probably find the couple extra hundred to get to Ja or Fox, but if you end up on Tyrese Maxey, that's fine. No problems there.
At some point, isn't Curry going to go for 50?
He's really playing bad.
We're getting to a point where like I feel like if you make a lineup, you kind of have to throw him out there. I mean, I get it, and maybe Chris Paul just doesn't work for
Yep.
them,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like maybe he just isn't the puzzle piece that fits with this team right here. But the price keeps going down on Steph Curry here. At some point, he's gonna pay it off. And I feel like we said that a lot about a player last year that I can't remember who it was at the time. Maybe it was Zion or something. But like,
Seems like Zion.
doesn't it feel like Zion?
Seems like a Zion thing that we said. Yeah.
At some point, we're like, this price keeps dropping. At some point, he's just going to pay it off. And, I feel that way about Curry as we continue to work our way down because, like, I don't know. I don't really want to spend $7,700 on Derek White. I know what Derek White's capable of, but that feels too much for me. Kobe White feel the same way. Devin Vassell at $7,200. I know he's been very good, but in blowouts, he gets capped. He plays 30 minutes and then they take him off the floor. So, double-digit dogs for Vassell here. I mean, this mid-tier of point guard to me feels like a lot of landmines.
I would say just McCollum feels like, and I know this was like a Curry related question to start.
Well, it's a Curry-related question leading into sort of the rest of this tier because I kind of feel like they're all
I'm gonna like kind of let Curry beat me because dude, he had 37 actual earlier in the year in December. He had 49 fantasy points. Like that's not gonna kill you at 8,800, right? Like that's. I know we're not accustomed to seeing. He's a 10K player for his whole career. He's been 10K. Just like you said, there's just something off. And now they're starting Chris Paul, like you said. He started last game. If they stick with that starting lineup, well, Chris Paul had 20 something actual. It's just not. It's just kind of like a situation I want to stay away from. I would say the guy I'm going to get to is McCollum, who we've talked about his price drop. You specifically were like, I get it. 26 and 25 fantasy points were not good. But there's no reason CJ McCollum ever should have been under 7K. No. And then he responds 22 actual in back-to-back games, big minutes in back-to-back games, a lot of made threes in back-to-back games, 48-40 fantasy points in both those games. So I would say CJM would be the one guy that I'm like super comfortable with getting to in this mid-tier.
Sure. I like that. Again, good price. Should be a competitive game against Brooklyn. Again, one of the few competitive games that are on the board. Brooklyn, New Orleans, 230 game total. Even this is still a 7-point spread, but I'm good there. You have Holiday, Dinwiddie, Malik Monk had a really good game the other day at 6,100. But again, worrying about blowouts, man. I mean, where are we going at point guard?
So the Monk thing is obviously interesting because they made a lineup change and they moved Kevin Huerter to the bench.
Yep.
And they started Duarte. And nobody would be shocked if Malik Monk is going the way he's gone the last 2 games. Chris Duarte he gets X'd out too, right? Late in games, and you just see Monk playing 30 minutes like he did against Atlanta. So I do have some mild interest in Malik Monk. Obviously, competition in this game remains to be seen. Will they stay competitive? Hate that Pajemski went to the bench, truthfully. I hated seeing that. No reason. I know Kerr's just trying to get
good, right?
The minutes were still good.
Productive, but when he's on the bench, there's always a chance that he gets off to a cold start, that he doesn't come back in, right? So
and even in that game where Chris Paul didn't miss, and Chris Paul 5,600 is going to be super popular if he's starting again.
Yeah,
Clay got benched because Clay was 1 of 11. What if Clay's making all the shots, and what if Chris Paul's making all the shots, and you're never taking Steph off where does Pajemski's minutes come from, right? So that's a little crappy. Love to see Marcus Smart playing 30 minutes a night. Don't love the production, but probably plays more in that Sacramento game if that game was at all competitive.
Yep.
Jalen Suggs, 1 for 10 last game. Not going to really hold it against him. Giddey had a really good game again against Brooklyn. Has been better, but is this a spot he gets left on the floor?
Well, that's the thing, right? We talk about his minutes, and then all of a sudden, in 2 of the last 3, he's playing 29 and 27. If you can tell me he's playing 29 and 27 at 56, I have a lot more interest in him playing 15 or 20, right?
Correct. I just don't know if they're Josh, you just gave up 4 open threes to Derek White. Sit your ass on the bench. I don't know if you knew this, but Derek White is someone you need to guard, Josh. And then that's where you get
he's not afraid to take 15 threes. So
I'd rather in that case just same price, Chris Paul, right? Who we know, especially if Chris Paul is starting, I'd rather just play Chris Paul.
And then we got the Charlotte guys. If Rozier doesn't play, and we see what that rotation looks like tonight, you will have those 2 guys at the same price as they just were, basically. Ish Smith at 43, Nick Smith at 4K. We'll know how they're going to use those guys after the Monday slate. So, the value is going to be there if Terry Rozier does not play in the second leg of the back-to-back here on this one.
I got one more. Yeah.
Not Derek Chris.
Rip. So if Trey Murphy's sad again, dude, Jose Alvarado, he's not always going to do this. I was watching that Lakers game. He had 4 steals and 2 blocks. What a freaking menace to society. 4 steals and 2 blocks in 20 minutes for Alvarado. 8 points, 3 rebounds, an assist. He was in the winning lineups for $50K on Sunday. He's $3,500. That'd be the only other guy I would consider, because you could get 12 minutes. It's a large field tournament play only that requires Trey Murphy to be out. But if he does have that defensive upside,
sure,
that is in the range of outcomes for him. That would be the only other name I would possibly throw out, but it would have to be Trey Murphy out because he benefits from Murphy being.
Over at shooting guard position here, all guys we have discussed already. You do have Jaylen Brown at $8,600, Desmond Bane at 82, Brandon Ingram at 81.
Of the 3, it's for sure Ingram. Brown's still priced as if Jason Tatum's not playing.
And Derek White's not playing.
And Derek White, yeah,
that's the thing, is not playing.
Drew Holiday is not playing. He's priced as if all those guys, and Drew Holiday is not on the injury report anymore. Yeah. So full healthy Celtics team. No thanks, Brown. We know Bane has a ceiling, but we've seen the last 3 games. This is the last 3 games that you and I expect, and
what the hell, man?
Yeah, I mean, look, we knew that there was a great possibility. I don't think it's a coincidence that happened during Marcus Smart's return either.
True.
Smart is a ball dominant player as well. So
2 of those games also Indiana and Atlanta. We talk about that all the time.
Right.
High fast pace, high scoring games. It goes to Denver, Clippers on the road. Sacramento should have been that spot, but just didn't work out. So
I love Ingram. The minutes are great for Ingram. Doesn't matter who's in or who's out for Brandon Ingram. Like Zion, it doesn't matter. Like him and Zion are like 1A, 1B alpha on this team. When they're all clicking, it's really hard to stop because in that Lakers game, Zion went off, Ingram went off, McCollum went off, Larry Nance went off the bench. Like Alvarado was crazy defensively. Like they're just a good team. So it would definitely be Ingram, shooting guard, small forward for me there.
We have a shooting guard only Mikal Bridges here.
Ooh. Not great. I like the minutes. Like the minutes. Peripheral stats were great. I wish they were like that in the Washington game when I played them. But I mean, not only is it's also, again, the price just keeps getting lower. Like 72 is now the cheapest. The last like 4 slates have been the cheapest, and now it's even cheaper. So yeah, I mean, don't love the eligibility, but 7,200 is a good price.
I would agree with you there. Brandon Miller's here at the mid tier at 67. Cam Thomas off the bench at 62. You got Clay, Kelly Oubre. Anybody down here in the mid range? No D'Anthony Melton, so maybe Oubre starts.
Probably, yeah, probably. It's a good call. That would be my assumption. Philly, yeah, Maxey, Oubre, Toby, Batum, Embiid.
Yeah, probably.
So he came off the. Yeah, I guess that 5th starting spot. Oubre would be my guess too, because they were starting Oubre over Batum with Melton.
Right.
So now maybe Batum starts over empty spot, right? Yeah, Oubre's fine, 58. I played him the other day. He was fine. Wasn't great. Same like Caruso, you can always get to. He's going to play like 28 to 30 minutes. He's been really productive lately. 28 to 30 fantasy points in 3 straight games for Caruso. That's about it, John. I mean, Chris Duarte started and played 26 minutes, but he had 14 fantasy points. Do you want to play Chris Duarte at $4,000 for that? Oh, Luke Kennard returned. I don't know if you saw this. Luke Kennard returned.
I did.
Didn't miss a shot. 6 for 9, 5 for 8 from 3, 20 minutes. Probably.
I mean, the role he was playing most of the season, right? Now, obviously, Smart being back and those guys played a little bit into his rotation, but against San Antonio, he can go out there and start firing.
Agreed.
So, dart throw for small slate. Anybody else?
No.
All right. Small forward. Jason Tatum's $9,800. DeMar DeRozan at 83. Franz Wagner at 75. Toby 74. Probably can't go Toby anymore with Jabari here. Not Jabari. Joel Embiid back here. So, what are your thoughts in the mid tier?
Well, Tatum's fine.
Tatum, I mean,
yeah, Tatum's fine. Tatum's fine. Good pace up spot for Boston. Like really good pace up spot for Boston if you want to go there. DeRozan, again, 30 fantasy points last game, right? Like he's just not. There's not like a ceiling. Seemingly, we thought we were going to get a ceiling versus Indiana. We didn't. Same exact spot, 30 fantasy points. Wouldn't be shocking if he did that again. I'm just confused why Franz Wagner's price went down. That's really what it comes down to for me.
What's the matter? When you go for 55, 46, 55, you're supposed to go up?
In 3 of the last 4, and we're going down. He's playing monster minutes. He's taking monster shots. He does everything peripherally. Why are we getting a price deduction here?
And against a Golden State team that like isn't the same defensive team it ever was. So like,
no, I feel pretty good about that as like one of the first plugs in like a cash lineup and a tournament lineup, like whatever you want, because like he's giving you a safety net, and he's giving you a ceiling. So what more do you want in cash, and what more do you want in like tournaments when you can go for 55? So
agreed. I think he's been amazing for me an underdog. He goes in like the third round basically, and you're like all day. Jalen Williams 68. We talked Miller already. A lot of these guys who ran through, I guess Patrick Williams in this conversation over here. Cody Martin's up to 5,100 because of the back-to-back.
Yep.
Herb, I guess if Murphy's out, played 30 minutes.
Yeah, he looked good too. He looked really good. He was super popular. He's going to be super popular again. lost out some time due to a blowout, lost out some time. He actually had early foul trouble in that game too. He picked up 2 really quick fouls.
Yeah.
And then you saw Najee Marshall come in and like 50% of the field got 14 fantasy points in like 2 minutes from Najee Marshall. I was like, great. Chalk just getting rewarded for foul trouble, but then he didn't score another fantasy point the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Herb 49 would be if Trey Murphy's out.
Vince Williams doesn't play any more minutes.
No. Especially with
20 minutes. Yeah, that's probably it, right?
It's
if Murphy's in, you'd probably play Murphy, right?
Yeah, 54 is a good price. I would have less that would hurt Herb too, because we've seen the production from Herb really.
How do we approach Andrew Wiggins? Under 5.
The Wiggins thing. Yeah, he's been under 5.
No.
It's just like kind of like tempting, right? Like
every other game, he's basically giving you 6, 7x. So.
He's the range of outcomes in minutes is severe. So is the production. Like it's tournament play only.
Okay. Anybody else down here for you?
Nope. Let's move on to Wemby.
Oh, $8,500 for Victor Wembanyama, who's only going to play 24 minutes.
Yep. And you and I kind of had that debate. And then, after that game, they were like, oh, yeah, by the way, 24 minutes, by the way, is just going to be what he's going to play. It's obviously concerning. It's also just he's just one of those guys. You know what this is, John? Do you remember when Anthony Davis was getting traded from New Orleans?
Yeah.
And he was playing 20 minutes a night. And it was $7,000. And every night you were like, would you play Anthony Davis? I was like, no. You're like,
you know what? It might have been Anthony Davis that we were talking about. As the price kept coming down, I was like, at some point you have to play Anthony Davis, don't you?
Well, it probably was, because that was the Pelican days. That was when he was demanding.
We've been doing this show for so long that but I very vividly remember being at some point, he's too cheap that he can pay off this price tag. Honestly, it might have been the Anthony Davis days.
And I would tell you no. I'd be like, no, I'm not going to play him. And then he would give you it was 7,000. He'd give you 42 fantasy points. You're like,
well, it might have been him and DeMarcus Cousins. I think at one point DeMarcus Cousins was also playing 20 minutes a night. I'm like, listen, at some point DeMarcus Cousins is going to go for 40 here,
But it is something to consider. I don't think you could ever sit here and be like, Wemby's a core play while playing 24 minutes.
He went for 60 in 20.
But he has that. But he has that. That's the ace in the sleeve, right? That he could, no matter.
He's done it twice. He went for 59 and 25 against Denver.
Yeah, look, you can't play him in cash.
I combined 10 plus blocks and steals with a 22 and 11 double in 25 minutes.
You can't play him in cash, no. I think, but in tournaments. There's just not people on the planet that can put up stats in the amount of minutes that he can.
Joel Embiid, Giannis, Luka, Jokic.
I mean, some of these, it's a short list, dude. It's a short list.
Yeah, because he could double with 5 blocks by halftime. Right?
These are fantasy points that and we use this all the time. Harden and Westbrook teams by themselves. That's the type of fantasy obviously way different scoring, but I'm just saying in freaking bunches in a very short period of time.
On FanDuel against Portland, he had 70 fantasy points in 24 minutes.
Yeah, I mean that's
because he had 7 blocks.
Yeah, it's literally ridiculous.
It's a thing. All right, so Wemby's there at 85. Obviously, play at your own risk. Tournaments only for sure. I mean, Banchero's done nothing wrong, right? 8,200.
Another price reduction.
Yeah, a little bit. Yep, $8,200 is no Draymond, so have no worries about going into that spot there with him there. Zinger's at 8K. I mean, another guy that you've seen at times just completely take over a game. This Lakers game, he did not have this going into the fourth quarter.
No, he did not. No, he did not.
And then all of a sudden, you go look at the Christmas slate, and you're like, Porzingis has 53. What the hell happened? He's like, oh, he just dominated the fourth quarter of that game. I mean, he's not going to go over 7 from 3 every game here. He was also being defended by Wembanyama at times in this game, which we know is a struggle for some. Now he's got Chet Holmgren, though. So, he's got another 7+ footer that can block shots in his way. The unicorn versus the unicorn here, looking in the mirror a little bit, isn't he?
That's fun. That's going to be a fun matchup. That's a really fun matchup. We'll see if Chet can handle the post presence that KP has shown this year, number 1 post scorer in the NBA. But I I can get there. Now the problem is like I'd also really like to get to Zion, who was in big foul trouble in that Lakers game, still had like 26, 6, and 4. He's looked
Yeah.
really, really good. Since you've
Mhm.
given him like you're like, yeah, I really want to play Zion. He's really responded big. Obviously you want the 49 fantasy point games as opposed to
Yeah.
the 38, but like even 38 at 78, it's 5x.
It's
Like
the
you
blocks
get
and steals for me again, man. We talked about this since he was drafted. I thought he was going to be a better defensive
no,
stat
zero,
accumulator, right?
zero,
Like
zero.
just isn't there. Like he just doesn't get you steals or blocks like I thought he would because of his athleticism. I just thought
Yep.
he'd be able to do it. And the rebounding's inconsistent, right?
Yep.
Great double-digit rebounding. Then it gives you a 4. He's got a 3 rebound game in here. And I know some of that has to do with Valanciunas obviously being
And Nance, because Nance had a double-double last game. Like
yeah.
they played Nance as many minutes as they played Valanciunas in back-to-back games, even more. And Nance we know is a really good rebounder.
I'm glad they broke him of his want to shoot threes though.
Yeah.
Remember when he came into the league, he just wanted to shoot threes, and
dude, he was shooting threes at Duke like a lot, and you're just he doesn't even shoot mid-range though. He just goes to the rim. Like they don't even guard him.
Go be Zach Randolph, man. Go do it. Like
with infinite bounce.
Yeah, well, let's go get Zach Randolph in here again. That guy was awesome for a decade plus. So like,
especially for that guy who won 100K with him.
Well, 100K got a 0. Hilarious. Triple J 72. Not terrible, not terrible, but limited. I guess PJ Washington's something to watch if there's no Rozier and Hayward, right?
And possibly no Mark Williams again, who's probably going to be listed doubtful for the 37th straight slate, and then not play. All that stuff would broke for PJ that he'd be in play.
Let's see. Keegan, Cam J, more Kuminga. Like, what are your thoughts?
Probably Kuminga. It's probably Kuminga. I do think it's worth noting, John. I literally said, I think before the Washington game with Cam Johnson, we're like, probably just going to play 28 minutes. And then the last 2 games, Cam Johnson's played 33 and 34 minutes. So maybe we're getting back to like ceiling minute games, and that's interesting, but like the production hasn't really been there. For me, it would be Kuminga. For me, it would be Herb Jones.
I'd be more interested in Cam Johnson if he was taking 8 to 10 threes and not.
Yeah, agreed.
5, right?
Agreed. I firmly
if you're gonna only shoot 11 times, just do what you do best. Shoot threes.
I know he's such a good floor spacer. Like, yeah.
You're just limiting your point output there. Anybody else power forward value?
I do like that Trey Lyles has power forward eligibility, but he was so good in 19 minutes, 19 fantasy points. He's been so good like 3 of his last 4, but the minutes are so inconsistent. Probably not. Maybe if Herb's out, Najee Marshall, someone, but
center position here, we have Joel Embiid.
We do. I don't know why you're signed. He'll be fine. If you want to, he is going to, again, we know what, like, you don't want to like ever like pick out a matchup, but like, dude, he made Drummond go into the backup center role, and for him, he's like, come over here, buddy. You're my backup now.
I'm trying to pull up the numbers. I don't know. This is updated. Okay, so against Andre Drummond, they played 11 games together. 11 games against one another. Joel Embiid is averaging 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 1.6 blocks, and that was before this iteration of Joel Embiid. So Drummond on the flip side is averaging just what?
Have you looked at 2 of the last 3 too of the iteration?
Yeah, for this season, a lot of that was against Vuk though. So
last year, 37 and 16.
Sure. Yeah, Drummond's only averaging 12 and 10 against games where he started against Joel Embiid. So not great. His best ever performance against Joel Embiid though was 27, 17, 6 and 5. So
that is crazy. That was a clear GPP winner.
Drummond's only beaten Embiid in points twice. He's out rebounded Drummond in 6 of the 11 or Embiid in 6 of the 11 games. So,
I mean, like, let me ask you, Embiid, I think we'd play, barring, I don't assume there's any limitation. He's literally not on the injury report, fully back. Drummond's been really good against 2 like immobile or kind of like not immobile, but like guys that are closer to the rim. Embiid can stretch the floor, obviously. But they just have to play him because Terry Taylor's 6'5" and their backup center.
Mm-hmm.
Would you play 8,200 Drummond? Like any consideration, or is he in foul trouble immediately? Because he's been in foul trouble basically.
Yeah, I
every game.
mean, probably goes in foul trouble because he's been in so much foul trouble as it is. The problem is on this slate, there isn't a lot of you love at center, right? Like it's JoJo,
No.
Sabonis, obviously, but you're going to worry about a blowout there. And then we've talked about it, like Porzingis, home to him kind of have their thing. You got Claxton versus Valanciunas, which really isn't a great matchup for either of those players. Nick Richards got to deal with Sabonis on the other side. I mean, Jackson Davis, I guess, would be our play here.
Jackson Davis, yeah, especially if he starts again. Right. Again, another situation where his price dips. He played almost 30 minutes, started, didn't miss a shot. Has more upside probably because the rebounding. Had a little first half foul trouble in that game. But yeah, I would love to get to Jackson Davis. And I'm telling you, I wouldn't shy away from Larry Nance, John, who played the last 2 games since being back, 25 and 23 minutes. And we've seen this, right? Yep. Long history of Valanciunas, not just with Larry Nance, just with backup centers. Like he just loses out time. Yeah, he just loses time. And if you're telling me that Larry Nance in back-to-back games has almost 30 fantasy points in each of those games, 4,200?
Yeah. Larry Nance has played over 20 minutes 3 times this year. He has an actual 20-minute game, but over 20 minutes. OKC played 23 minutes, he had 25 fantasy points, 25 against Utah, 29, 23 against the Lakers, 29. So if he's going to get over the 20-minute mark, over a fantasy point per minute player. And that's been his career. We talked a lot about Larry Nance at times because of this. So I'm with you there. Wish he was power forward center, not just center.
Agreed.
Which he may be on FanDuel. I haven't checked the FanDuel eligibility, but wouldn't shock me if he was power forward center over there. But some decent value there on this slate. It feels like, given the way we've broken down this slate, it's going to be a double center build.
Yeah, Jackson Davis, clear-cut value.
And Embiid, right?
And Embiid, yeah. Yep.
There, Jackson Davis, kind of 46. And if we need the money, I guess we could go to where am I? I keep passing him here. I can't. I'm waiting.
46.
I see the number, and yet I don't.
You're on guard.
That would be the problem. That would be the problem.
Yes.
All right, 57.50. You said you think Paul's gonna be super popular here at 5,600.
If he starts, I would assume because he made all those
started last game, right?
Yeah, he started last game. Yep.
Gotta consider him probably starting here again. We talked to Oubre. Starting for Melton, 57.50 for the rest of our slate here. What are our thoughts on some mid-tier plays?
There's I don't like any of them. Power forward like Franz at 77.
Yeah, I like Franz. That's a good call. It's Franz.
You can move Oubre to shooting guard.
Mm-hmm. So
power forward value would be Herb probably, or Wiggins. I don't think there's like much else. If we just didn't. Yeah,
worried about that.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with Kuminga. We're playing 3 Golden State against Orlando.
It's not great. That's true. I wish we would have some sort of clarity on the guard situation here for Charlotte. Obviously,
Duarte's going to start, but he's just such a low floor.
Yeah.
Alvarado, we don't know. The minutes could be 12, could be 20.
Herb,
yeah. Herb's a really good price. And again, we don't have to play Embiid. But obviously,
if we didn't play Embiid, you would go where then? Sabonis? Would you just...
No.
Would you go and just play like Banchero?
Ingram, maybe 81 or something like that. Brooklyn's been pretty bad defensively. Like just do like a fair and balanced kind of. Yeah, Banchero and Franz have like coexisted.
Yeah, they've been pretty good together. Back to like this stupid price range. If DFS is out, does like O'Neal get more minutes? He's probable, I guess. Did you play DFS in this matchup?
I played him the other day. It was super tilting.
Apparently there was we'll throw a dart throw Wiggins, I guess. We're back in Orlando Golden State. Late night hammer stack, I guess, is where we're going here. So
yep.
Again,
that's an early build too, because like we don't know what Charlotte's gonna do. There's a lot to
definitely a lot to go with for sure. I'm trying to see where there be any like other upgrades. Not really. Not really. All right, guys. So let's just look at an example lineup. Paul, Oubre, Wagner, Jones, Jackson Davis, Ingram, Banchero, Wiggins. Fair and balanced build. We got going on there for everybody. Of course, we'll have the playbook out. We'll be back live at 5 o'clock Eastern time. If you have any questions, find us in the Discord. Follow us on Twitter here as well. We'll get you all ready for the Tuesday slate. We'll catch y'all later.